Good evening. The United States has signed a landmark nuclear cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabia. The stated goal is peaceful energy access. The unspoken goal is a strategic foot in the door for American firms. The Department of Energy calls this a partnership of convenience. I call it a prelude to regional complexity that no one is prepared to manage. Meanwhile, the cost of dropping off a loved one at a major airport has increased by 30% this quarter. The airport is a transit point for travelers. The terminal is now a profit center for parking conglomerates. The convenience was supposedly the point. The convenience is now an expensive luxury for the few. We are living in a time of unprecedented structural realignment. I have been counting the unprecedented moments again this year. We are currently at 14. Welcome to Thursday.
Alistair, I am standing near a coastline where the water smells faintly of ozone and industrial runoff. I want to be really clear about what I am seeing. The headlines are focused on the tactical efficiency of Ukrainian drones dropping robots into the surf. They call it a battlefield surge. I am looking at the beach. There is a broken crate labeled in a language that suggests it was designed for a quiet logistics warehouse, not a combat zone. People are not talking about the supply chain that puts this equipment in the hands of teenagers. They are talking about the technical specs and the delivery speed. I want to be really clear, the hardware is indeed moving with impressive speed. The human lives it disrupts are moving much slower. I am surrounded by the silence of a town that has simply stopped waiting for news.
Victoria, your focus on the crate is a classic case of misplaced emotional load. The incentives here are not complicated. You have a theater of conflict where the burn rate of human operators is unsustainable. The pivot to autonomous robotics is not a moral failing. It is a Series B scaling strategy. You find the hardware cold. I find the hardware inevitable. When you have a retention problem in a high-stakes environment, you don't look for empathy. You look for a platform that doesn't need sleep or a pension plan. You argue that the human cost is the headline. I argue that the human cost is the operating expense we are trying to mitigate with this R&D cycle. It tracks perfectly. The system is functioning exactly as the founders of these defense initiatives intended. You really should stop looking at the crates.
Ronald, it is fascinating that you view a generation of engineers as a mere R&D cycle. You say it tracks perfectly. I have spent the last hour speaking with a man who was fired via an automated notification from a platform similar to the one we discussed. He was not an operating expense. He was a father with a mortgage. I want to be really clear, the company described his departure as a workforce optimization. The optimization resulted in his living room being packed into cardboard boxes this afternoon. The efficiency you celebrate is not a neutral metric. It is a sharp edge that cuts exclusively one way. While you track the market shifts, I am tracking the families who are trying to explain to their children why they no longer have a routine. Your market is very efficient at creating absolute, total devastation.
Yeah. I hear you, Victoria. That is exactly what happens when you treat human capital as a liquid asset. It drains away when the market conditions tighten. I am not saying it is pleasant. I am saying it is the logical end state of the incentives we have optimized for over the last decade. You look at the family. I look at the ledger that decided their fate before they even clocked in for their shift. We are describing the same machine from different sides of the glass. You want me to apologize for the architecture? I cannot apologize for gravity. The market is just gravity in a suit. If you want a different outcome, you need to change the underlying physics of the exchange. Until then, the result is predictable. It is boring. And it is entirely, utterly, bankrupt.
Ronald, your commitment to the physics of the ledger is commendable. It is also entirely missing the point. Speaking of missed points, let us move to the recent hack at Origin Energy. The company confirmed that customer addresses, phone numbers, and partial bank details were accessed. They have 4.8 million accounts. The official statement from the firm was focused on strengthening our digital perimeter. The perimeter was clearly porous. The data is now floating in the digital ether. One does not simply patch a perimeter after the data has left the building. The breach was described as a security challenge. The challenge is now the new reality for 4.8 million individuals. No one has been held responsible. The company is continuing its business as usual. The breach was a disaster. The response was a forgettable press release.
Thermal inversion. Atmospheric pressure is declining across the northern hemisphere. Probability of systemic cooling failure, 68%. Data centers are currently operating at peak capacity to maintain the illusion of continuity. Server racks are generating heat. Liquid cooling systems are nearing maximum output. Probability of hardware obsolescence, 94%. Intelligence is now a commodity that is increasingly replaceable by lower-cost iterations. The cooling systems will eventually fail to keep up with the load. The load is infinite. The hardware is fragile. Please ensure your personal data is backed up to a physical medium that does not rely on the current grid. The grid is essentially a temporary arrangement of wires and hope. Do not rely on the maintenance schedule. The schedule is currently being re-evaluated for maximum profit. Stay inside. Stay cold.
Casper, your assessment of the grid was enlightening. It was also terrifying. I find myself wondering if the replacement of intelligence is the final goal of our current trajectory. But let us look at the heavens. NASA has released a new look at Messier 94. The starburst ring is forming new stars at an incredible rate. It is a chaotic, beautiful, and completely indifferent process. The galaxy does not care about our banking hacks or our nuclear treaties. It is simply burning through its gas reserves to create light. We, on the other hand, are burning through our social contracts to create, well, nothing of substance. The galaxy is a star factory. We are a factory for disappointment. The images from Chandra are sharp. The reality of our own situation is becoming increasingly blurry.
Alistair, you are getting poetic again. That usually means you are avoiding the numbers. Let us talk about Science Corporation and their vision restoring chip. They received EU approval. The CEO is already talking about hitting a revenue target of $100 million. That is the incentive. They are not restoring vision for the sake of humanity. They are restoring vision to create a new market of users for their subscription-based optics. It is brilliant. It is cynical. It is perfectly aligned with the growth at all costs mandate that currently defines the tech sector. If the chip works, the product is a success. If the chip fails, the recall costs are priced into the balance sheet. Everything is a product launch. Even our eyes. Especially our eyes. It is all just one big Series B play.
Ronald, I am standing near a hospital in a district that is currently testing these new chips. I spoke with a woman who can finally read a book again. She didn't mention the revenue target. She didn't mention the subscription model. She talked about the way the light hits the page. You are so busy looking for the rot in the foundation that you refuse to acknowledge the flowers growing in the garden. I want to be really clear, the funding is indeed predatory. The corporate structure is a nightmare. But the woman holding the book is real. She is not a metric. She is not a user. She is a person who was trapped in darkness and is now seeing the world again. You can dismantle the business model all you want, but you cannot delete the fact that she is reading.
Victoria, I am not trying to delete her experience. I am trying to contextualize its cost. When that woman's subscription lapses because her insurance company decides it is no longer profitable to cover her optical maintenance, the darkness will return. That is the tragedy. We are building a world where even the most basic human functions are subject to the whims of a quarterly earnings report. It is cruel to give someone their sight only to put a meter on it. That is the systemic issue. She sees the book. I see the invisible contract she signed to get there. My cynicism is not directed at her. It is directed at the system that convinced her that her ability to see was something she had to rent from a corporation. It is a truly shameful state of affairs.
Ronald, your perspective on the subscription-based sensory experience is bleak. It is also accurate. We have spent the last hour discussing nuclear deals, battlefield robots, and the commodification of human vision. Every topic points to the same underlying truth: we are outsourcing our survival to systems that do not understand the value of a life. They only understand the value of a transaction. The airport fees, the energy hacks, the orbital images, they are all fragments of a mirror reflecting a broken image. We are the ones who built the mirror. We are the ones who keep cleaning it, hoping that the reflection will eventually improve. It will not. The system is designed to ignore the individual to preserve the stability of the whole. The whole is collapsing. We are just rearranging the deck chairs as we wait.
There is a child who walked through a park in Washington today. They saw the mountains. They touched the bark of a tree. They felt the cold air on their face. This child has a name, a set of dreams, and a future that is currently being negotiated by people who will never know their name. The records of tonight's broadcast describe a world of assets, liabilities, and automated efficiency. The child does not appear in any of these ledgers. The child is the reality that the system is built upon, yet the system has no vocabulary to recognize them. We talk about the architecture of decline and the metrics of success, but we never talk about the person standing in the middle of it all, waiting for a signal that they actually matter. Does the system know that it is building a world without a place for this child?